Hello, and welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is the show where we talk about THC, truth, hope, and change. In a crazy, mixed up, upside down world, it'd be interesting and profitable perhaps to really understand what the truths of the whole thing are, which should in fact result in some hope that maybe we can change things into a more right side up and reasonable world. But it's certainly not that way right now. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from cannabis.ca join us for the 420 session and beyond, as always, for 4 years now. And we'll take a visit outside to the Healing Wave CSP RV. And of course, that's kind of the theme of the show, is the whole CSP and what that's all about. Now, the CSP is the Cannabis Substitution Program. And it's a program that's been running for over 6.5 years. We're coming up to 7 years in February now, since we started handing out proper dose, larger dose than the government will allow, of edibles, cannabis edibles, to people that would be willing to line up and get them in the form of a care pack. The proper dose edibles, when used properly, are able to assist people greatly in getting through the withdrawal from the opioids and the other dangerous street drugs, including alcohol. So that's a very, very, very valuable thing in this world where there's an epidemic of overdose deaths, and really there's a near epidemic of people using opioids and these other drugs as well. I mean, alcohol in that mix, definitely there's a bit of an epidemic of overuse of many of these stimulants and these drugs. But because we got a messed up world, I mean, the world is upside down and backwards and inside out and not reasonable at all. And many people are struggling to survive, struggling to make ends meet. And many people are trying to do that from positions in their life where they're not fully capable, let's say, because of, circumstances and things like that. Not everybody is born with the same gifts as everybody else. In fact, everybody's got their own gifts. And along with gifts, like everything has a yin and a yang to it. And we have gifts, but we also have deficits as well. And many people, the deficit is in their predetermined genetic engineering of who they are from the millennia of generations that have been going on for all this time. Others from the environment they find themselves in, things that happen to them, the circumstances of their life, if you will. But we are living in a world where, we have a hard time navigating as things change so quickly. And the forces out there that are looking to exploit people and monopolize the situations and take advantage that don't seem to be using any type of human ethics. They seem to be involved in simple financial ethics. They're laying waste to an awful lot of people. Those people living on the edge of poverty around the world number in the billions. Some of the things that are happening economically around the world are more and more forcing those people into starvation and those sorts of things. It's also the precursor of wars, as people become desperate and fight for things, or people become upset with governments, because there's a lot of reasons to be doing that as well. With the Cannabis Substitution Program, we're kind of in the middle of a lot of that kind of stuff. It should have been easy in a reasonable world that was right side up. This amazing cannabis plant that has a symbiotic relationship with the life on this planet. In respect to humans, we have the endogenous cannabinoid system, the endocannabinoid system, which is representative of the diets that our forefathers were involved in. Because as much as we say that we are what we eat these days, realistically we're much more what our ancestors ate. And these bodies of ours have developed over the millennia. And the cannabis plant, or the cannabinoids on the cannabis plant, and cannabinoids come on other plants as well in nature, but the cannabis plant is kind of like the bomb when it comes to cannabinoids. There's no other plant quite like it. And it is an extremely ancient plant, as opposed to most of the plants on the planet right now, like about 95% of them, that are actually fairly recent in their evolution. But cannabis with a male and a female and a taproot that goes deep into the earth and numerous other indicators is an extremely ancient plant. And so it's been around life on this planet, providing cannabinoids and a source of food. Because of the endogenous cannabinoid system that we have, the endocannabinoid system, the cannabis plant, full of cannabinoids, of course it wasn't called that back at the time, but the cannabis plant with the chemicals that were on it was consumed for food, but also it became something that would be consumed for medicine, and it had been consumed to the point where it could become medicine for a long, long time. We're talking millions of years here. It's an ancient life form on the planet, as are and is everything else. With its, I mean, even though we have these plants that aren't as ancient as cannabis, they still have connections and roots. Not in the actual physical term, but they are derived from other plants. They have just evolved because of environments and changes in the environment and things like that, so that they're a different species. But these species were all obviously connected to other plants that were growing, before them, that were their ancestors and forebears. And all of the life on the planet, everything that's alive, from the blade of grass to the fly to a horse to you and me, all of us have what was an unbroken chain of procreation that goes back billions of years. It's incredible. It's amazing. It's awe-inspiring for sure. But us being biological units that were created out of chemical processes over billions of years ago, and now have achieved a consciousness that is beyond anything else that is alive on this planet, from the blade of grass to the horse to anything that is not a human. Our closest competitors in that regard would be the other primates, and they're very simple-minded, to say the least. They are not building telescopes or smartphones. They're not contemplating life in any great degree. We are head and shoulders above all the other life on this planet, and a fairly recent development here with the biological life evolving and continuing to improve to meet the needs of the environment that we're in. And so somehow us humans don't seem to understand it, but we're very, very lucky and blessed to be the sentient beings that we are. But sentience doesn't necessarily bring reasonableness, and it doesn't keep things from going upside down. In fact, many of the same dynamics that go on within other groups of primates and animals on the planet are certainly there and involved in what's going on with human beings. We do not gain sentience and gain reasonable logic, ethics, and all of those things all at the same time. It's been quite a struggle. The whole idea of what is ethical is a new game for every birth that happens within the human population here. And everybody's got to try to figure out for themselves, what is ethical, what is right, what is wrong, who am I, and what do I want to do, and what do I want to be on this planet, how do I want to live, is a new game for every human being that's born here, and we all got to try to figure it out. And there are those that have always been amongst us that are a little more talented than others, or a little more leveraged than others, or for whatever reason they have a step up. And that's where ethics comes in. I mean, if you have a step up on the other people around you, what do you do with that? Do you use that to help those people, or do you use that to help yourself? And, probably the human condition is aided a lot by, the whole process and journey from birth to adulthood. And a lot of that involves fear and desperation and looking after yourself. And the concept of sacrifice comes only after you fall in love with somebody else. The concept of sharing things is a difficult one for kids to grasp most of the time. The initial reaction, the way that you would naturally respond, is to grab what you have and keep it for yourself, and to teach the children the value of sharing and what that feels like is the job of a parent, and some of it do better jobs than others. And so some people end up being more apt to share their things than others, and some people end up, as adults, more interested in gathering everything they can for themselves without any thought or compassion for the other human beings that occupy their space. So this has been going on and also evolving with everything else, as powerful people become more powerful, they become smarter, more sophisticated, they learn about how to manipulate people and how to take for themselves and all of those things. And so here we are in a fairly modern world comparatively to where we come from, certainly over the last couple hundred years, even in the last 50 years. I've noticed a huge change in the complexity of the human beings in our society. That 50 years ago, most people were pretty much like other people. They wore similar jeans and they wore similar hairstyles and they thought similar thoughts, and they were in the environment that they were at the time, and it was a lot easier to navigate, a lot simpler than it is today. Over the last 50 years, I've watched as the world has gotten so complicated. There are so many different ways to be as a human being, and they're all okay, apparently. You can be whatever and whoever and however you want to be. And, that certainly was not the case a number of decades ago, where if anybody tried to color their hair differently or do anything radically differently, they were pretty much, they were bullied into, conforming with everybody else. But along those lines, with the powerful and the unethical, and those that aren't so apt to share and help, has been an evolution as well. And population control is a real thing, and the real heavily leveraged powers that be really have the rest of the world, the masses of people, under the thumb. And we've been fighting for freedom for a long time, because I think many of us realize that that's the key to a reasonable life, is to respect each other and recognize that everybody's an individual sovereign being, born here without request, I think, and just trying to navigate life. And so, powerful bullies will do what powerful bullies do, and they will find ways to be the one in charge, and they'll find all sorts of ways to protect their interests. And that's where the CSP kind of intertwines here, because, with the Cannabis Substitution Program, we find ourselves over 6.5 years ago in a world where opioid addiction, alcohol addiction, addiction to and misuse of hard substances is rampant. Many people trying to cope with their own limitations, their own negative situations, but in many cases also just trying to cope with a world with a whole bunch of really greedy, nasty, unethical people in charge, and that's depressing for people. And so they look for all sorts of different ways to deal with that. When actual physical trauma happens and people end up in pain that's serious, up until this overdose epidemic, the doctors not only freely offered these opioids and other hard drugs to people to deal with that pain, but they pushed it on them, because that was where the real money was for doctors. The incentives to be able to pass these things on to their clients were huge. And so there was every time you went with anything to a doctor up until a decade ago, you were going to get some sort of an opioid. They had many different forms of them, and they just loved to give them out to people, and they weren't really interested in curing very much. It's mostly just about maintenance, and they keep you on these things, and the money just keeps pouring in. If you're in a situation where the government and the other taxpayers are subsidizing the use of medicine, then in many cases you don't even feel it. You go to the doctor, you tell him you got a toothache, he gives you a prescription, you go to the drugstore next door, and you got what you need. And so many people ended up addicted to these things because those types of drugs have a way of interacting with the human body that require a physical withdrawal from them. And by physical, I mean painful withdrawal from them if you were to just stop using them. You need to be weaned off them in a proper way, and even that's less than comfortable, but it's tolerable if done properly. But there we were 6.5 years ago in a world where so many people were now dealing with their problems through the misuse of alcohol and cocaine and crystal meth and many other things, opioids, and somehow the drug supply became compromised. So, and this is not the government or the medical industrial complex's drug supply. This is the underground drug supply where so many people have to go because they can't get everything that they want from the doctors. There's other reasons why they don't go to doctors, and there's a whole underground illegal drug trade going on. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't already know. And somehow the drug supply had become compromised. That in the opioids, but also pretty quickly in just about any of those powders and pills that are being manufactured and produced and put out into the underground drug world, was compromised. And people were dying from this extremely, extremely powerful opioid, fentanyl, and then carfentanil, but mostly it's fentanyl is what we're finding, and has been the case. And so the world's upside down because all these poor people are stuck on this drug that they can't get off of. And now the drug supply that they have to use because they can't go through mainstream channels becomes compromised, and people are not just overdosing, but they're dying. Overdose has been a thing for a long time, but dying from overdose, that's an extreme too. So cannabis in the form of concentrated edibles, like concentrated cannabis in edibles to doses of 50 to 500 milligrams, somewhat beyond for the odd person and somewhat below for the odd person as well, are a way to assist yourself through that withdrawal. And many, many people have found that to be the case. And we answered this public health emergency almost 7 years ago coming up with a program, Cannabis Substitution Program, to provide these higher dose edibles to people for free, to make it as easy as possible. That was the bottom line mission of the Cannabis Substitution Program, was to make it as easy as possible for people to get access to these proper dose or higher dose edibles. There was no legalization at that time. Edibles were illegal, period. If you were sick and had a doctor providing you permission, you could grow for yourself or have somebody else grow for yourself, and you could make extracts thanks to court decisions won in expensive fights against our government. But when we started this program, there was no edibles available, period. Cannabis was still illegal. But having the knowledge that cannabis in the form of these higher or these high dose, whatever you want to call them, it's 419, I'm running out of time, was the answer for many people, and that was known to myself, and so that's why the program got started. And we began trying to get governments to support what we were doing and about to do in providing people with these edibles. And that is where we intercede with all that I've been talking about at this point in the program, is that those evil, greedy, unethical, corporatist people that are running the show here, behind the scenes and sometimes right out in plain sight, have not in all of this time allowed for us to get permission from the authorities, if you will, public servants in my mind, to be able to do what it is that we do every day for the last almost 7 years. And that is where we find ourselves in a very upside down and inside out and backwards world that makes no sense for people who think that we should be living in a reasonable world with some respect for human beings, but it's sure making a whole crap ton of money for all those people who only care about power and keeping everything to themselves. 420 it is. Well, Sir Wells.
Sir Magnuson.
We got to stop that.
Oh, do we?
I think so.
Well, it's Rick Walker's birthday. We can't stop today.
Well, we won't stop it on Rick's birthday. Happy birthday,
Happy
Rick.
birthday, Rick.
I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
I think that was a great gesture.
Yeah.
And I know you're the king of something, and I respect you, and I think that was, very well intended. But I don't really call myself sir. I don't.
No. It's just, yeah.
I don't know what I'd do if the Queen put a sword on my shoulder.
Well, it would be kind of hard. She's dead.
Or king now.
Oh yeah, you want to remove your paper?
It's just a little bit of milk.
Yeah.
A little bit of milk spilled on me there. Did somebody say that?
The cut.
Oh, that cut. Oh, yeah, that.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, okay.
Not something on your chin.
Not something on my chin.
That's right. Yeah, you would. On for 20 minutes with it. It's like I'm going to mention that when I sit down beside him. So.
Oh well. So there you go.
Neil comes self-shining.
After 50 years of practicing, I still cut myself shaving every once in a while.
And then forget to take the stuff off.
Well, that's the hair and makeup people again.
That's it, yeah.
We're going to have to fire those ones and get new ones.
You were live. We can't pick on them this time because you were actually on camera. So.
Well, but they should have caught that ahead of time, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
All right, you folks, out you go.
But you're never always prepared anyways, right? Is that what you always say? I'm not ready? Yeah, I'm not ready, yeah.
So, this crazy upside-down world we're living in. I mean, I know with a 420 session, I guess I should light something.
I got something. Right.
I do want to continue what I'm talking about, though,
yeah.
because there's some real good examples that you found for me that, show just how crazy this is. What's going on.
Maybe if they knew about all this many 100 years ago, maybe we wouldn't be having so many of these problems.
Who's they?
The government that said that the cannabis was the devil's lettuce. And all that kind of stuff, and then it kills people and makes you go crazy and all that. Maybe if it was turned around, we might even have all these sicknesses.
You're imagining that it was different back then, and that the people that were in those positions of power were ethical. And I don't think they were.
No, we don't think either.
No, I don't think they were.
I don't think
they understood. I don't think they understood the scope of the damage that was going to result from demonizing cannabis and trying to eliminate it from the marketplace. That would be hard to calculate. It's incalculable right now. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that there was any of that. Well, by 2023, they'll be having an opioid epidemic, and they still won't be allowed to get cannabis.
They may have known that we would be a sicker species. We'd have more diseases and stuff, which would help. They
may have known that to some degree.
In the pockets of pharmaceutical companies, and then
I mean, back in the early 1900s, when it was really being demonized to begin with, they hadn't discovered the endocannabinoid system.
Okay.
I'm saying it different today.
Endocannabinoid.
Cannabinoid.
Oh, why?
I don't know. I heard some experts say it cannabinoid.
Oh.
So
okay.
Cannabinoid.
Some people say potato, some say potato, or
it's
tomato,
the same thing.
tomato is the same thing, right?
I think everybody always knew what I meant.
Cornflakes.
You can Google either one, you're going to get the same answer. So I don't know that it was anything but just focused on their own greed. That they had products that weren't going to compete with cannabis, so they were willing to join that bandwagon.
Yeah.
And it started out originally, apparently, around the border towns. It was something that the people that were coming up from Mexico were using, and there was, some human hate for things that are different going on that seems to go on all over the place all the time. And so, these people taking our jobs or whatever it was, right?
Well, it's these people.
It's always fear. Yeah. The racism is fear-based.
Fear,
for sure.
Change, yeah.
Yeah, you're afraid of what's different. You're afraid that they're going to change something you don't want changed.
The screenwriters are all on strike because they don't want AI doing these movies and stuff like that. So.
Well, I'm bucking that trend. I'm speaking AI right now.
You are? Are you? Okay.
My intelligence is artificial.
So you're... This is not really Neil. This is AI Neil. I put together some video of just him and I chit-chatting.
It wasn't me cutting myself shaving. There was a flaw in the actual suit that they've got me wearing, and they were just plugging it for a moment there.
Wow. But, talk about AI, man. There's that thing. I was watching 60 Minutes this weekend, And they've actually got AI programs that will take your voice and call your grandmother or grandfather and have them give you money because it's your voice that they're hearing on the phone,
100%,
right?
yeah.
Well, I'm in trouble. I need bail money. I need this, right? So,
there's you can see how things change. There's a graph of how quickly things have changed, and man, over the last 50 years, it's been
just gradually climbing up.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing because AI is going to change so many. I mean, it's already involved with a lot of things, but it's going to change so much. And the world is going to become a scary place. It's going to become an amazing place. Use it for yourselves. Figure out how to ask questions. And
I'm not too sure about it.
I am sure that there's going to be
for
numerous.
Reasons, yes.
There's going to be. There's not one single AI. There's not one single God yet, folks. There's going to be a whole bunch of different AIs controlled by different corporations, different groups that produce these things.
Yeah.
They will be used for a huge variety of different things. They're going to be amazing in the ability to assist in diagnostic things to do with medical, in prescribing or understanding treatments. It's going to be amazing in advancing our sciences.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
But with all good, there's bad.
Of course, like the
Right?
yin and the yang. Every front door has a back. Everything's got a front door and a back door.
This for $8,000, right? Because it was her grandson's voice on the phone saying that he had hit some pregnant lady and that this lawyer was going to make sure that he didn't go to jail and to send the money to this lawyer to have this lady come and pick up the money. And,
Crazy.
Yeah, it's scary.
Oh,
It's
man.
scary. Like, they can make a whole video of you just because you've got words on the internet, right?
Oh, for sure.
And make it look official, right?
Oh, yeah, no, we're just in the infancy of this thing.
Yeah.
And what the maturing of this thing means that nobody's privacy is safe. You can't trust just about anything coming at you digitally.
The whole thing, though, about the AI is that it will eventually be smarter than us, and so that maybe they can all join up together. Just because we're not going to do it doesn't mean that they themselves, as the entity of the computer, outsmart us. And
how could it not develop consciousness? How could it not?
No,
I don't think there's any way that it couldn't if it's a logical thing to evolve.
It would be more like Spock, logical, everything logical.
Would it?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know.
Have no human emotion.
Why?
Because we can't put a human emotion into keys and write it as a code. The computer needs a code in order to do.
It can write music.
It can write music, with a code, right?
It can understand compassion.
Maybe, but it can't have it.
Well, I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree.
I
think it can
have.
have.
We have a heart and a brain, which give us that consciousness.
But when you say heart, you're not talking about the thing that's pumping blood through your system.
Yeah,
you're talking about the compassion that we have for other life forms that we appreciate.
Yeah.
Will not an artificial intelligence learn to appreciate that which is in its mind beautiful and learn to despise what in its mind is not beautiful or ugly? Won't it come to some of those conclusions? We're going to be asking it to come to conclusions. Right now, perhaps it's more just about give us all the information. What information do you have on this, this, and this?
Yeah.
But because it's going to have all of that information, and people are going to be asking it, it's a natural evolution of that particular life form that we've created here for it to, make comparisons.
Yeah.
Maybe you would give it a basis for making comparisons. Maybe you would tell it that this is beautiful music.
Yeah.
These are beautiful scenes of nature.
Yeah.
This is an ugly dump.
Yeah.
This is death and carnage.
Yeah. But that's only your opinion.
I know, but who will opinions not get put in? Is it not experiencing opinions every time it absorbs another person's writings?
Yeah.
Is it not absorbing opinions every time it's experiencing another body of music? Full of words of wisdom and love and all these things. With it being exposed to all of those sorts of things, would it not naturally, as part of its evolution, derive some biases? Have some preferences? Yes, perhaps programmed in earlier versions of itself by humans, but still there. And so I think there's going to be a whole bunch of different AIs, and you'll be able to use some of them. You'll have them on your as an app, and the medical professional will be able to have AIs involved in diagnostics and other things. And there'll be lots and lots and lots of these sorts of things. But one day, like what you're saying, there might just be one AI God.
Yeah.
Well,
another thing is that AI might try to help those people that say, "Why is this happening to me?" Right, and then it goes on with that question and tries to make things better for the whole world because of that question. But we're human; we're not perfect, and it won't be able to understand that even though we think we're perfect, we are flawed.
Oh, big time.
Right.
So Dan last year asked ChatGPT to write a speech for me.
Yeah.
So it got familiar with me and what the CSP was all about.
Yeah.
And it came up with a speech.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, it was a lot like what I would say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was.
Read your stuff.
So it came to have some sort of an understanding of me to generate its own words about what that understanding was.
Yeah.
So would we not be able to put to it what would be the speech given by a combination of, say, Edward Hubble and Albert Einstein and numerous other luminaries in the astrophysics world? You know, what conclusions would all of those minds and all of their information combined come together as one as? I mean, why couldn't it do that?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think it could. Of course it can. And if it can't now, it will be able to later.
The
because
Terminator movies are all right. Yeah, it's going to happen, right? You know, like
it's based on what's online and what's out there in the digital universe. It's going to be a lot about porn.
AI porn.
Well, I don't know what it's going to do with that. I mean, I know it's going to be used to simulate, to come up with, what looks like real people doing real things and all of that. Wow. I mean, what's that version of AI? When the AIs are at the table there, they're all sitting at the big table and they're all talking about their own versions of what it is they're doing. What's that guy going to bring to the table? And maybe he's gonna, start to fancy that particular AI over there.
Yeah.
She's kind of cute.
Little blackberries.
I mean, there's AI robots.
Yeah.
That are.
Oh, it's sex robots.
Well, no, I wasn't meaning the sex ones, but there's those too.
Yeah, there's sex robots.
But the non-sex ones, I mean, even at Disneyland, we went to Disneyland when it must have been 35 years ago. And they had some pretty damn good robots there that were pretty convincing, eh?
Really, eh?
Yeah. Well, you can just kind of imagine these days. I mean, they look and sound and talk.
Robot leaders.
There's lots of things. Butlers, and they're living out. Some people have these things. In Japan, there's lots of robots and shit. So, I mean, and their bodies... The future is just as weird as you can imagine it. That's all I'm saying. I mean, we're going to see some changes over the next.
We don't have a crystal ball, but we can just.
But we're experiencing it.
Some of it, yes.
Some of it, yes, you're right. Just tiny little bits of it.
Yeah, we really don't know what's going to happen.
I allude to things. There's robots in Japan. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a few words that I put together. That's generally talking about population-wise, a huge country with millions of things going on at any given moment, and you make a statement like that, and you haven't touched on the actual truth of what that means.
Some of the stuff that they've had on shows and stuff.
Just I'm talking about the limits that we have as human beings to actually think we know what's going on there. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they talk about, everybody's doing this.
Yeah.
Well, no, everybody's not doing any one particular thing except breathing.
Yeah.
That's it.
And then you're saying something about China doesn't have any money now, it's cashless? Was it China or Japan?
Pretty much. A friend of mine just came back from Beijing, and it's all about having an account on your phone.
A social credit account.
No, that's different. A social credit account is different. This is just a money account.
Yeah.
But you have a log on your phone. It's like an app, of course. You just punch it up, and you can see how much money that you have in your bank.
Yeah. And
then whatever you want to purchase, you just use your phone. When you get on a bus or you get into an Uber, it's all paid for by phone.
Wow.
And
what happens if you're a tourist?
What tourists too? I guess. I mean, she was a tourist, although she's from there originally.
She had to pay by phone.
But she paid everything by phone. She had some cash with her, but never used it.
Wow.
And I don't think I have to ask her more about. is there a provision for people to be able to use cash if they don't have a phone? But it didn't sound to me like there was. Like it was just because I said everybody said, well, everybody has to have a phone. She's like, yeah, everybody has to have a phone. What happens if your phone breaks or you lose your phone or somebody steals it or now what?
New phone.
You can't.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, probably I don't know what they do, but it's a scary world to me to not have at least the ability to trade some coin or some paper.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like the whole idea.
Everybody's saying to go into the metals and silver and gold and stuff like that and start buying that way.
And are we going to be trading that amongst ourselves for different things, services and things? I don't know.
Also barter.
Anyway, I'm not an expert on any of these things. I'm just a minor observer as it comes across my desk.
It's scary, man, because then that way the government controls our money.
But what I wanted to talk about was, earlier the whole preamble was about just how corrupt and upside down things are, and how with the Cannabis Substitution Program, we've been trying to turn that around for going on 7 years. Mm-hmm. It is so hypocritical, this whole thing. The idea that these public servants felt it was somehow within their ability to act on what they felt was maybe a public health emergency that they said was going on, and so that to protect people, nobody could have anything to do with cannabis. Like, almost like a COVID scare back in the early 1900s, where, it's so bad. Like it was being portrayed as so bad. William Randolph Hearst, with his newspaper articles, including in the violent stories, a little line about the person had been seen consuming some reefer before they did their terrible crime.
Yeah.
And that was in the public's mind right up until the 60s, and it stayed there for many people, far beyond that. It didn't matter what they concluded for those people. They were already fully brainwashed and not about to believe, the new finding, which was that it didn't make people violent and insane. It wasn't the root of violence. In fact, it made people calm and relaxed, and should not have the criminal law used against it. This is the Schaefer Commission in the United States, the Ledane, or Schaefer Inquiry, whatever it was, the Ledane Commission here in Canada, similar time periods, similar results, because they were spending all this money and resources on trying to keep people from having access to cannabis with, a few little buds. Something like that could get you put into jail for long periods of time. I mean, you would certainly lose your job. You'd kick you out of the church. If your family would disown you, because it was so horrible. It must be. I mean, the government is telling you it is. And so that ended in about the 60s, like I said, where officially, except that the criminal penalties against people involved in cannabis didn't end.
No. Like
those commissions said should happen. And it just continues to escalate till we're living in such an upside-down world now, where we've got a public health emergency of people overdosing, and many of them dying, but even just overdosing, that is devastating for a person to overdose on those drugs. You lose oxygen to your brain for a period of time. They're not the same, and so we're producing a whole bunch of handicapped people through overdose, those that don't die, persons with disabilities and barriers.
Yeah.
And this is a major thing in our world, and cannabis is such a great help for that, and they won't allow it, and they're still demonizing it. But it's come so full circle. Mm-hmm. It used to be that there were those stories by William Randolph Hearst and others that jumped on the bandwagon, that had personal biases and reasons, usually financial, for wanting to continue the prohibition and attempted prohibition of cannabis. But there were stories back then that implicated cannabis in bad things, but slowly but surely, somewhere around 20 years ago, more and more good stories started to come out. The results of those commissions started to be investigated. And so here we are now. It's how many years? Like 60 years since those commissions happened. Mm-hmm. And we still are spending enormous resources on trying to prevent people from growing cannabis, except in Canada, where it's legal. I mean, it's always just certain people that can't grow cannabis, I guess, in a legal world.
Yeah.
So we're still spending those even more money now than we were when it was illegal to try to keep all those other people out of the marketplace. And that's insane. But there's a couple of stories that I was going to talk about. That was that there's something called pouchitis. Pouchitis is something that happens when there's a pouch that forms, and things get caught in that pouch, and there's decay that happens.
In your stomach?
In your body.
In your body.
In your body. I imagine it's more specific to the digestive system.
Yeah, we could probably Google it.
We could.
Yeah.
But suffice to say that inflammation occurs,
Yeah.
and it becomes very painful for people, and there's usually surgeries involved to try to fix it, and a lot of chronic pain. 5 million people suffer from this.
Wow.
And a study out of Israel has concluded that there's sustained relief for people in using cannabis.
Okay.
So talk about a medic for 5.
Or it's
no, it's dealing with the chronic pain.
It's dealing with the pain
because it's an anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So it reduces the inflammation, which reduces the pain. You still have pouchitis, and you still would need to have surgery to deal with that.
Yeah.
But there's sustained relief for those people from the chronic pain that happens.
Yeah.
5 million people affected by that. But that's only a quarter of the 20 million people who suffer from sickle cell anemia. Now, sickle cell is where your blood cells are typically in a disc form. And when they're going through other cells to drop off their value, they flow through easily because of their disc shape. It's designed to do that.
Yeah.
But the sickle cell means that the cells have mutated into more like a sickle shape, more like a crescent moon shape.
Yeah.
And they don't easily go back and forth through the cells or go through the cells like they're supposed to. And that causes all kinds of problems for people. And here this French study from Paris that people suffering chronic pain as a result of this are getting a dramatic improvement. Dramatic improvement by using cannabis to offset it. And that's in the form of daily CBD use.
So you think maybe the endocannabinoid system is remembering and telling that cell to remember it should be a round shape or a disc shape instead of the sickle, because I know it can't do that.
Well, I'm outside of my realm of expertise,
Well, I know with the cancer, when they use radiation, it teaches the cell or kills the cells that are still in your body. When you use cannabis, it's the endocannabinoid system that reminds these cells that had one purpose, and when they had that purpose, they were supposed to just die. They didn't.
Right.
It reminds them that, hey, you were supposed to do this, and it doesn't.
Right.
Right.
So maybe the same thing going on.
Maybe the same thing. If it's already happening with one thing, it might be happening with the second one. Right. So. After looking at that.
And don't know the dynamics of it, but somehow there's dramatic improvement with people that are using daily CBD in the sickle cell anemia.
Probably is really as powerful as your brain almost, it really keeps your body in tune and healthy. And
it's the overriding regulator of all of the bodily functions.
Yeah. The brain and the endocannabinoid system.
They work like a pair.
Heart, they're top three, right?
Top three.
Yeah.
So, but 20 million is also a drop in the bucket compared to the 100 million people that suffer from anxiety and PTSD. And surprise, surprise, another study is showing that people, and this is from Australia, that these people that are suffering from anxiety and PTSD respond favorably.
Yeah, to cannabis.
They respond favorably to cannabis.
Already.
Yeah.
I have PTSD. I just have anxiety. I still get some anxiety, but yeah.
Millions of people using cannabis prior to legalization, many of them using it because they were self-medicating for their own PTSD and anxiety and something. The common phrase, throughout our culture and history here was, man, I need to smoke a joint.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, you need to smoke a joint.
Yeah.
That guy needs to smoke a joint.
No,
and what they're saying by that is that guy's a little hyped up. He's a little upset. He's nervous and anxious. And if you just smoke a joint, he'll calm down.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Just just three more examples of the many hundreds of examples.
I've seen somebody smoke a joint get very hyper too. There are those people I've run into them. You know.
And sometimes you're telling those people to smoke a joint too.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work the same for everybody.
It's like the people that have that are something about need Ritalin for speed or something like that because they need to be. They used to be on speed and now they need Ritalin in order to keep them up or something. But I don't know. It's really weird.
It's life.
Yeah, it's your body, right?
It's life in a very complicated world.
Yeah.
And life is very complicated too. And trying to deal with those complications is done much better from a position where you have respect, where you have some leverage, status, whatever you will. The fact that people are trying to fight these things and they're up against forces that would continue the havoc on them, corporations that prey on them, that rely on people not being healthy and well, for their money.
Yeah.
And these places have lots and lots of power. I was watching Dr. John Campbell on the Russell Brand show.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Campbell, I don't know if you know him, but he's a medical doctor. He's an expert. He's been following this pandemic from the beginning, putting out his YouTube channel. And to begin with, he was very much in favor of all the restrictions and all the lockdowns and the vaccines. But certainly he's evolved long past that over the last couple of years to where he now says he doesn't trust the government at all. And much of this vaccines and stuff seems to be more of a scam. And he was exposing how the policymakers in government, the CDSA or whoever they are, they got $400 million from Merck.
Wow, eh?
Just a little going away present, or go buy yourself a cup of coffee, sort of thing, right? And that's just the tip of the iceberg on how much money these pharmaceutical giants have been funneling into these particular pressure points where people get to decide whether or not everybody needs to get vaccinated, or whether or not everybody needs to be wearing a mask, or all these other things. So it's just insane that we're in this world we are, where these super powerful forces, like the pharmaceutical companies, they've only existed for 100 years, something like that. Not much beyond that, if at all. I mean, Bayer, I don't know when they had their start, but originally they were involved in what we would call pharmaceuticals, unless you're spelling it F-A-R-M. Yeah. Because drugs were always derived from plants. I mean, drug is a German term meaning dried plant. Yeah. So, these people have been around for 100 years, and they're already so rich. Like, so rich. Mm-hmm. And talk about not having ethics at all. I mean, their whole business forever has been designed around solving human problems. Yeah. So human problems are required for them to solve. Yeah. And there's been a lot of shady stuff done by pharmaceutical companies, lies that were told, medicines that were nothing more than placebo. Yeah. The scandals go on and on and on, and most of them get covered up because these groups have so much money and they can bury things and they can pay people off and all the rest of it. But that's why we're still, about to go to war with government here. Mm-hmm. Now, going to war with government is like fighting yourself. Mm-hmm. Because where are they getting their money?
From your taxes.
From my taxes and your taxes. Yeah. So Health Canada thinks that it's okay, and the Crown think that it's okay that they spend a whole bunch of our tax dollars on trying to prevent the CSP from providing the option of cannabis in a world, in a country, in a neighborhood that is ravaged by an overdose epidemic, that cannabis, if able to obtain through low barrier, low cost, no cost, high potency cannabis, that would help solve this issue, and they're not going to let it happen? That's what we're talking about, is this enormous influence that is there and being used against our public servants. Yeah. Well, it's against us through them. Yeah. But Yeah, because the public servants are making bank.
Yeah.
You know?
And they're getting bribes and
yeah,
all other kind of stuff. Yeah.
Must be great to be in Canada and be a public servant that's in one of those departments that can take those bribes.
I would suspect that there are some of them that take the bribes, but maybe live with the guilt because they know that they may not be doing the right thing. But
I think they find people that don't have a lot of guilt going on.
And then no conscience or whatever.
So I know a guy.
Yeah.
Worked for CSIS.
Yeah.
Was given a very high up job with CSIS eventually after many years of service, and it was like his first day on the job.
Yeah.
When he was approving all of this money that was coming in from these oil companies. Mm-hmm. And he asked his secretary, who'd been assigned to him, what the hell is this all about?
Yeah.
And she said, well, it's just what we do here. Is we take a bunch of money from these people, and then we look out for their interests. Oh, wow. And he quit his job.
Oh, wow, you're right there in that, eh?
He wasn't the person that they wanted in that job because he wasn't going to be able to just go, oh, isn't that cool?
Let's go out for dinner.
Let's go out for another $100 lunch.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's order some Timbits and stuff.
Yeah, with the gold flakes. So there's a lot of corruption going on, and you wouldn't want to think that.
No.
Me, because I'm old. Maybe you're this old too, but for me, I had some respect for public servants, I guess. I followed politics mostly provincially growing up. My dad was quite into these things, and you want to think that these are people that are doing a good job for you, and right? And then came the cell phone. Yeah. And with the cell phone, originally, I don't know if anybody out there remembers this, but there were these scanners that you could get. Yeah. So that anybody talking on their cell phone in your neighborhood, you could hear them. Yeah. And so there were the sales of the scanners were higher than the sales of the cell phone for quite a while there. Wow, right. I don't think anybody's using them anymore, but what do I know? Maybe
because it's a different signal now.
Yeah, it probably doesn't work like it used to. But so what happened fairly not long into that was there were some intercepted calls between high-level provincial politicians and their lawyers talking about stuff in ways that the public did not think they should be talking about these things like that. Yeah. There was always some dirty tricks that happened, and you knew some things were going on like that. But that conversation and the fallout from that, and a whole bunch of stuff after that, that really started to expose just how corrupt these people are behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And I guess an example would be a chief of police smoking some reefer up on the roof of the police station.
While he's down.
While people below him are being arrested and about to have their lives ruined for having some weed. Yeah. And I'll tell you that happens. I'm not going to name names because I haven't been up on a rooftop with a police chief.
Or smoking up there.
But I did get to meet a lot of mayors, and I did get to meet a lot of police people on my freedom tours across Canada, and in activism in general, as I go and try to talk to people on a regular basis. And the more stripes they got on their arm, the more I want to talk to them and find out shit. And sometimes you get a glimpse into the realities of these people. And what I came away with was a real sense that if you're in that position of power, you are able to do what it is that you're telling other people not to do. Yeah. And the mindset is that you do that because you can. Yeah. So they're up there in those fancy rooms in the legislature, privately, having a bong rip. Yeah. And going, yeah, look at me. I'm, don't look at me, but how they feel about themselves. Like, yeah, baby, I'm putting all these people in jail for doing what I just did, and I can do it. Yeah. And so I came to understand that the only real freedom that exists here in Canada was the freedom of the PMO. Yeah. The Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister, they get to do pretty much whatever they want, and they're free, and the rest of us are just. Trying to navigate a non-free world. So, anyway,
the illusion of free.
Man, I've been rambling on for so long now. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't got much more to say, probably.
You really, eh?
No, it's probably
Wow.
not true.
Wow.
You know, it just gets to a point.
Where was this PTSD study done? You remember?
Australia.
Oh, it's Australia. Okay.
Australia,
All right,
yeah.
yeah.
Australians
it says
did that.
right there, yeah.
They threw a couple shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah,
And then they went, hey,
let's
you know,
get stoned.
if I smoke a reefer, I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
You know, I think there might be something to that.
Right,
Hey, Doc.
I bet you the
Hey, Doc,
shrimp
how about
tastes
you?
better, too.
You know, when you're not feeling good, you smoke a reefer. Do you feel better? Does it make your anxiety go away at all? Let's throw another fish on the barbie and see how we feel about it.
There's nobody over there.
There's a whole audience over there. Don't discount all those people.
See what cannabis does?
I was imagining being at a party in Australia.
Yeah.
You know, and you're talking about stuff, and you're talking about, hey, you know, this stuff's not so bad.
Yeah. It's not so bad, is it?
It's not so bad.
No.
In fact, you know, sometimes I'm not feeling very good, and I smoke some of this stuff, and I feel better.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
So they did a study, and they found out that 100 million people that suffer from PTSD and anxiety could get would respond favorably.
Yeah.
Would respond favorably
Of course they would.
to smoking a joint. For those of you who smoke cannabis, you're very well aware, I'm sure, that if you come up to somebody who's obviously in some sort of emotional distress or even physical distress, if you offer them a joint,
Yeah. And
they'll respond favorably.
Yeah.
They'll respond favorably.
It's
What a stupid world, eh?
It's nice that it's raining today. It's helping the
well,
fires.
it depends. Yes, it's great for that.
Right? When there's a lot of buildings.
And the only reason I was saying that is because we were talking earlier before the show about prayer, and you know, one guy's praying for rain for his crops, and the other guy's praying for a sunny day for his beach, you know, party.
Or sunflowers or whatever.
Or something or whatever. But, you know, what's a God supposed to do? You know, God's got all these prayers going. I mean, half of them want rain and half of them want sun, and you go, well, which ones do I like better? I mean, who's been more faithful to me? You know,
don't go that way.
maybe we could just have little pockets of rain on those people that want it, and some sunshine, you know, pockets of sunshine. Maybe that'd be, you know, depending on your karma with your godma.
Maybe AI can do that for us.
Depending on where your karma bank is with your godma,
Yeah.
then you know it's either sunny or rainy where you are. You can be sitting right beside somebody else and getting the opposite experience.
Going
You know?
in there with umbrella weather and sitting there.
But you know what's a God to do? So I don't know. So yeah, thank God for the rain.
Yes.
And it's really too bad that there was some things rained out recently that people were planning on. I know. What did I see? Was it Amy Duncan that posted on Facebook that, yeah, sure, I get 3 days to go to such and such an event, and it's going to rain.
It's going to rain,
So she was not praying for rain. On the September 4th, at least for Surrey, could we have just a pocket of not rain in Surrey for the CSP barbecue and protest?
That's this Monday, right?
That's coming up on Monday.
Yeah.
So that's the CSP barbecue and protest.
Yeah, Labor Day.
That's going on in Holland Park in Surrey. Come on down. We have reason to protest, I'll tell you. There's always a reason for a barbecue if the weather's nice, for sure. That's always great to do.
Food for people.
And and a great way to, you know, get together and talk about things, get to know what's going on, you know, learn things and all that.
Learn about your
So
village.
a sunny day would be nice for that. But, you know, the VPD, who sent out a letter to one of the organizers of, a number of different events that have happened over the last few months here. She's now getting these letters, these emails, from the city of Vancouver, signed by the VPD, warning her that there's going to be no tolerance for cannabis sales at these events. Like, they've had it with people providing cannabis to other people outside of the government cartel, and they're willing to use your tax dollars to make sure that that doesn't happen. So they're warning her that there's going to be police en masse there to prevent any such horrible, violent, deadly activity as giving somebody a flower to help them sleep a little better, or to help them with their PTSD or anxiety, as it turns out, or a number of other diseases. So this is horrible.
Yeah.
We need to protest this for sure.
Yeah, especially when the VPD has no jurisdiction in Surrey.
That's nor does the city of Vancouver. In fact, they made it clear to me, the VPD made it clear to me that when I had requested that they investigate the federal government, that they don't have jurisdiction outside of 7 kilometers beyond their borders around the city of Vancouver.
Yeah.
And they can only go into that under specific circumstances. How do they have jurisdiction? Primarily to apprehend a suspect who has just gone from here to there. But so here, the city of Vancouver and the VPD think it's okay to intervene with an event happening in Surrey. So we'll see what Brenda Locke and the Surrey Council and the crazy upside down police force they have there right now, forces that they have there right now. We'll see what they do or don't do about a Cannabis Substitution Program fundraising barbecue that's there to support the Surrey CSP in providing cannabis and food to the poor people that are stuck, due to whatever circumstances, in poverty, homelessness, and addiction. And so the government thinks it's a great idea to spend taxpayer dollars to try to prevent that from happening. Yeah. So I'll be there, at some point during the afternoon. I've got duties here in Vancouver, but I will be there to lend my voice to this ridiculous situation that we've got going on here in Canada. One of numerous ridiculous situations going on here in Canada. But that's
what time
is
it start? I haven't been told anything about it. I haven't been asked to come. What time is it?
I don't know.
2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, what?
We could look it up. Do you think we should look it up?
Sure, you can look it up. You know where it is.
It's probably not a bad idea to look it up.
Yeah, because it'd be easier to tell people where to go.
Oh, I tell people, I tell people where to go all the time.
All right, let's see.
That's like that cop that came to BC Bud Day and was the only one to venture into the tents there. Yeah. And he said, "You remind me of my ex-wife because there you were standing up on stage at Cannabis Day telling me to leave." Yeah. So I do on occasion tell people where to go. All right. So this is going to be from noon to 5 p.m.
Okay, from noon to 5.
It's a bake sale fundraiser for the Cannabis Substitution Program in Surrey. There's going to be live music. There's Hillbilly Steve is going to be the host. Okay. There's music by DJ Slink and DJ Roadkill, AK3K, T3, RZ. Oh my God!
Oh, what are you doing? You're just messing it all up now.
I had it going on.
There you go. Why don't you just top the picture and then it won't go away? See? Okay. There you go.
That's why you're the producer.
That's right. That's it.
Dub G, Vicious, 5150, Clausen, and more.
And more.
So that's September 4th, this coming Monday from noon to 5 p.m.
All Park.
Giveaways included. So yeah, and sounds like you're going to have an audience for the protest. So there might be some. I doubt VPD would be there. We'll see if any of the private police. Surrey police show up, or if any of the Surrey RCMP show up. We'll see if the CSU is there. Boy, I hope if the CSU goes there, they got their earplugs out, because I think we're going to have a lot of things to say to that ridiculous, evil, costly group that runs around on our tax dollars, making sure people don't have access to any medical cannabis anywhere, because the whole government program, by its own definition, is non-medical. So all of these medical dispensaries that were servicing the needs of the tens of thousands of medical people that need to have access to cannabis are being shut out by force using taxpayer money by the CSU. Yeah. Like, if that's not enough to get you up off your couch and screaming, I don't know what is. I hope those people are there when I'm there. I mean, I hope I never see any of them ever again. They should disband, go away, say they're sorry. Yeah. But, if they're there, I got lots to say to them, and I'll take every advantage to do that. And to Farnworth, the idiot that is in charge of that group. Like, what the hell? NDP? And you guys are going to be in favor of shutting out medical access to cannabis to support Trudeau's cartel of non-medical recreational bunk?
Bunk it is.
They tell me it's getting better, you know. Good for them.
Good
for them.
They're not going to allow craft cannabis, right?
Yeah.
So,
let some of our good growers have a shot at raising prices.
Now instead of $40 an eighth, it'll be $50 an eighth.
More. They'll be at $20. They'll be at
$20 for a
They'll be at $20 a gram. You watch. It'll be $22 a gram. Craft cannabis grown by your best favorite grower. You know, these were legacy growers.
Yeah.
These are people who really know how to grow the plant. They care. And now we get to charge you even more money. You get to pay an even bigger fine for using the best marijuana.
So now you can smoke Snoop Dogg stuff, maybe, and
I need to smoke some weed.
Stuff,
I totally need to smoke some weed, man. Mike Tyson weed, Rebagliati's weed, all
those
these.
are all craft cannabis, right?
You can smoke a brand name.
Yeah,
I wonder how much, Tyson and Rebagliati and these people, I don't know how much of a cut they get on that $22 gram.
You can ask Redbeard. I don't know if he would divulge it.
Redbeard told me last time I talked to him about it that there's not a lot of margins.
Not a lot of margin. Yeah. We heard that from
not a lot of margins
from the lady at Glass and Weeds and Glass too.
Carol said the same thing.
Yeah.
You would hope not.
No.
I mean, you would hope there's not a lot of margins for anybody, but somebody's making bank on $22 a gram.
Well, those government stores,
that's over $10,000
because you're in a government building. Or something like that. They make more money because they have a lower overhead or something like that, right?
Absolutely. The governments, the stores that are actual government retail outlets in British Columbia, and I don't know what the other provinces are doing that way, but here in British Columbia, the government has their own stores.
Yeah.
And then there's the stores that are operated by people who applied and got licenses and all the rest of it. But, the government's using tax dollars.
Yeah.
And the government can award itself a store anytime it wants. Mm-hmm. And so those things are all high-end. They've got nice cabinets and lots of glass and fancy stuff paid for by taxpayers,
Yeah.
And so there's an unfair, but the whole thing is just ridiculous. I don't care if you have a fancy store, although I don't like the taxpayers paying for it. That's for damn sure. But for businesses to want to have a fancy store, to hire the best growers, whoever they may be, and have the best cannabis and charge whatever they want for it, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Of course they can do that. Why not? I mean, I don't see any good logical reason why you can't put the price at whatever you want. There's limited supply of it. There's a whole bunch of people that want it. They're willing to pay, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. But what I do care about is when the government is using our tax dollars to actively prevent there being farmers bringing to market cannabis at much more reasonable prices because they can. Just like they can bring to market tomatoes and potatoes and cabbage and cucumbers and corn and all of that stuff at prices that are nowhere near $10 a pound. But because of the government, those farmers can't put in a crop of cannabis and just bring it to market and say, hey, looking pretty good, eh? I grow outdoor all by myself, me and Mother Nature, just natural fertilizer, living soil. I'm bringing it to your store. How much will you give me? I only want maybe $20 a pound. Why would they want any more than that? Oh, because they can? Because people will pay for it? Sure. But in a real, reasonable world that wasn't upside down, that plant, for that farmer, can be as inexpensive to produce as tomatoes. That cannabis can be high-quality cannabis, even though not grown indoors, not under artificial light, not with a whole bunch of expensive fertilizer. It can still be really good cannabis.
Yeah. Oh, I grew some last year out in the backyard. Yeah.
Farmers would do that, trust me.
Yeah.
Farmers would figure out how to grow really good cannabis and bring it to the marketplace, and it wouldn't cost them more than it costs them to grow and bring tomatoes to the marketplace. That would be a fair and reasonable world. The farmer can market up what he needs to pay his mortgage and feed his family. The retailer can market up what they need to reasonably make a living.
Yeah.
and you would pay at the store similar to what you pay for other fruits and vegetables and herbs, for some cannabis that probably wasn't all nicely trimmed. Maybe it's still on the stalk with some leaves wrapped around those buds.
Bulkweed.
Bulkweed.
There you go, with the stalk, dude. You have to
Why not?
trim it.
How you buy carrots.
Yeah, bulkweed.
That would be available in our marketplace if government was not interfering. That's what farmers would do. Mm-hmm. And for a while, maybe they'd get more than $20 a pound. But eventually, they'd only get $10 a pound.
Yeah.
Might take 100 years. I don't know.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But to begin with, they'd all want to make as much as they can. Of course you would. Why wouldn't you? You know,
$1,500 a pound right now
for the good stuff. For sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But speaking of that, I think there's going to be a price increase in cannabis coming up. Because
I've been hearing coming to that stuff.
Well, it's kind of harvest season, right?
Yeah.
And we just had ridiculous fires in the Okanagan.
Yeah.
Now, BC is famous for its bud, and probably first amongst the areas in British Columbia that's famous would be Vancouver Island. Mm-hmm. So the Vancouver Island growers, kudos to you guys. You probably got that reputation. But the Okanagan growers, you know, the interior of British Columbia is also got some amazing growers. And I'm sure there's been huge losses to people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people like to grow out in the forests and stuff like that and have spots, and it's probably gone now. Yeah.
I would say there's a lot of very large grows and small grows.
Yeah, they're saying like 131 buildings gone from there or something like that.
Thank God there's no loss of life.
Cottages along the river or along the lake and stuff are gone.
The resort. And when they say there's 131 structures, well, one structure was the big resort that had like 130 rooms in it.
Wow, that went?
120 rooms. That's gone.
Wow.
So how many of those people were displaced?
Yeah.
You know, West Kelowna is a fairly affluent area of British Columbia. How many of those large homes that are now gone had multiple dwellings in them? Yeah. You know, so how many people have really been displaced? It's a lot more than the amount of buildings that are gone.
I think they were saying like 8,000 or maybe 5,600 people.
Some are still under evacuation.
Yeah.
Many of you are allowed to come back now.
Have been displaced so far, I think.
But, I mean, you can't even begin to discuss.
They can't go back because their buildings are gone, so they're going to be there for a while.
When your house is gone, I mean, some people had very little time to gather, you know, what they needed or what they could get out of there. Nobody can get most of their stuff out of there.
You can't.
When you lose a home, I mean, you can't even begin to imagine the loss.
No.
You know, it's horrible. My heart is just.
But people try not to. They just try to look at saying, "I'm still alive."
That's what you do.
Yeah.
You know, I worked for insurance companies for a long time before this job, and. Those were the people that were hit the hardest for sure is when they had a fire in their home. But almost never was there someone lost in the fire. I mean, when there is, there's not much you can say.
No.
You know. But when there isn't, then that is what you do say.
Yeah.
You know, and I had people telling me that, you know, that they're okay with the fire.
Yeah.
Because their kid's room is burnt to a crisp, but their kid is still standing right beside them.
Yeah.
You know.
We could start again.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Even though it's really hard. It's really hard. I've been seeing some of those people in Maui that are having a hard time. A guy was a truck driver. He had everything that he earned and put into his home and stuff like that, and now he's got nothing, and he's living in his car, and he's like 56 years old. He said, "I'm just too old to start all over again." Right? So a lot of people
horrible
lost.
Loss. I mean, individual.
Like in Maui, West Kelowna,
Yellowknife,
Shoe Swap area.
There's so many.
My daughter's band, not Isabel's, but my oldest daughter, she is Little Shoe Swap. They've lost over 31 buildings in their band, and a lot of people displaced there too. So, yeah, it's crazy.
The human spirit.
Wind and fire. That's it. And the lightning here. The lightning caused a lot of our fires.
I'm the odd one by stupid people.
Yeah. Apparently there was a lot of lightning last night too, shaking people's houses and stuff.
I heard thunder here.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't wake up to any thunder or anything.
I didn't go have a look.
No.
But I heard it going on.
Yeah.
Well, such is life, right?
We needed it, yeah.
Well, I don't know if we needed the thunder and the lightning, but the rain is always good for
I think it comes with it, right? Sometimes, yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, this is why we need weed.
Yeah.
it all ties always right back to weed. That's why I'm a freedom fighter. I'm interested in freedom. That's what I'm interested in. That's my number one thing. That's what I don't like about the world, is that myself and others are not really free to make decisions for ourselves without the hand of Big Brother being there on behalf of the big corporate greedy guy over there, making sure I do it the way they want it done. And I mean, it's very vague, but I mean, I'm all about freedom here. And so, it all ties back to weed. Like, weed is the real linchpin for the rest of our freedoms, in my mind, in my opinion. That as long as, because in two ways, as long as they can make it a criminal offense in a free country for a citizen to have possession of a flower off a plant, that's all dried and smokable, and when you smoke it, it provides all kinds of benefits, medical benefits. So if this so-called free world involves us not being free to even access the best natural plant on the planet, then holy crap, you are not free. You are not free. And on the other side, I mean, cannabis is so beneficial. That and so benign. Like, nobody dies of a cannabis overdose. You can't do it. Nobody's addicted to cannabis. A lot of people rely on it, but they're not addicted to it. They rely on it because it provides so much of a benefit to them. And if that can be illegal, like, we're not free.
If the government takes away cash, will we have a cannabis system anymore?
The cannabis barter marketplace is intact. Will always remain intact.
Somebody else's phone to say, I bought some illegal cannabis. Or you already paid for it, right? So the government would have control of that. What about the people down the downtown east side, too? Would they be able to go and carry their 2.5 grams of heroin and buy it from somebody, right? Wow, that's crazy and scary. Well,
I don't believe in living in fear.
No.
I do believe that if we work on things and we talk about things and be honest, then maybe.
Well, I don't think the human race would allow them to do that.
Don't listen to me though, because I'm an optimist and I know it.
Yeah.
And that really does taint my belief about
but
things.
There's the guy who's opposite to you out there, so you guys are about both make it balanced.
Yeah.
Right?
I try to think about what that person would say to me, as often as I can. Because my opinion,
of what you're thinking.
And I meet these people who think the opposite of what I do on some things. Not most people, but some people. So, whatever. My whole thing is, let's work for a reasonable world.
Yeah.
Let's continue what we're doing here to try to move the agenda forward of first getting weed illegal. At the same time, talk about freedom. Talk about why. What do you mean you're not? You mean you're free, but you can't smoke a joint? What do you mean you're free, but they're going to take your money away and put you in jail because you grew some plants in your basement, or in your backyard, or whatever? We need to not let this be the case.
Yeah.
We need to get a world where governments are bound with limits about how much they can do in interfering with you as a recognized citizen. It's like they are this humble, pious servant that you're paying to do a good job for you, but they work for you. And you are this citizen that, has all this respect because, you're a citizen. And you can do what you want. You don't get to hurt other people. That's not the act of a good citizen. But other than that, if you're not hurting anybody, it ain't the business of these little servants to say, what you're doing isn't good for you, because that's what drug policy is all about, is mostly it's not good for you. And so as your servant, I'm going to punish you severely if I catch you doing it. Well, this makes no sense at all. And then, like I say, it's making money. I'm repeating myself over and over again, Your Honor. I'm in the 5th year, and it's all getting redundant now. It's like, what else have I got to say?
Well, we can talk about pot fights on Friday.
There's going to be pot fights on Friday. Good
That's
Still
good,
a couple
eh?
more things to talk about.
Okay, well, you got more things now.
But pot fights, and pot fights is one of them. And,
Yeah.
and so, yeah,
Yeah.
that's coming right up. That's
Yeah.
like Friday.
Yeah. Do you have the address?
Yeah, but I'm not going to say it off the top of my head.
No.
But,
Let's look it up again.
you wanna
Because
look it
it's on
up?
my phone here, and my phone's the camera, so we gotta look it up.
You know how to look it up on my phone? You want Facebook?
Just look up on Asia's page.
That's what we should do, yeah.
Yeah,
I'll do
just
that.
go to Asia's.
It's Asia
I'm sure it's there.
with her 3 happy cats.
Yep. Or just Asia.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, 3 happy cats.
I was just throwing you a plug, Asia.
Yeah, there we go. And that's a three-prong plug.
3 happy cats. That's a lot like.
No, AJIA.
Stop it now. Just,
Come on. There you go. There you go.
Cape,
Asia
there's
May
one in
Moon,
the
that's
Cape.
the one you
There's
want,
an Asia
yeah.
May Moon in Queensland as well.
Yeah, because she's been to Australia, so it's probably something that she's done.
Oh, she's done Australia many times.
Yes.
She's done fine work down there,
Yeah.
bringing the truth there. But I was going to say that the 3 happy cats, that's like truth, hope, and change, eh?
Yeah. THC, 3 happy
She
cats.
hasn't done a very good
There it
job.
is.
Okay, there it is.
There it is.
I was just going to slag her a little bit. But September 1st, this Friday at 4:20 till 11 p.m. She wants me to stay up till 11?
I don't know.
See, this is all about me.
Oh, yeah,
It's all
yeah.
about me.
What's the
She's
address?
trying me to stay up late there.
2026. No, is it?
No, I don't see it there.
It's right there in gold underneath the date.
And gold underneath. Oh, yeah. 2026 East 43rd Avenue, Vancouver, BC.
There you go.
If you want to see a young lady beat up on an old man, then go to pot fights.
General admission is free.
She's not even going to charge you. You know why? Because this is all about humiliating me. And
others.
This is
And others, come on.
no. It's personal.
Karen and Jeff are going.
But that's
at
nothing
it.
to do with Asia.
No, I know.
This is just a smoke screen.
Okay.
This is just the illusion. So it's not just Asia against Neil. There's others involved too.
Yes.
This is not the pot fight. It's pot fights. There's other people with axes to grind. I don't know why she's got an axe to grind. I don't got no real axe to grind. But, a woman scorned, is that what they say? Beware of a woman scorned.
Yeah, nothing worse than a woman scorned.
I didn't mean to scorn her if I did, but she seems scorned to me. She's setting me up.
We've got.
There's no doubt in my mind about it. As I've watched all of this unfold, all of a sudden it's hoisted on me. Hey, by the way, from a microphone on a stage, we're going to have this thing called pot fights.
And Neil's coming.
And Neil is who I'm going to fight. And all he has to do is, outdo me in a duel of rolling joints.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
And
okay, I can roll joints. I'll do that. But then I find out, someone comes and shares something with me.
mm-hmm.
Here she is on some other podcast that, I wasn't watching. She knew I wasn't watching. I had no time to watch my own podcast, let alone somebody else's. There she is. And I'm supposed to do all these other things, too, that she didn't inform me of in any way, shape, or form, including write a song and perform it there.
Other than the one.
Well, I don't know why she would put any stipulation like that. Like, why is there some rule in her event that she made that says I can't do the song I know how to do? Why do I have to write some new song? And she's got some rapper dude helping her do it. So it ain't even really her doing it, right?
No,
I'm sure she'll be great. I'm sure she'll do a fantastic job. But, I get what the point of all this is. See, part of it is also a dab contest because she knows
I'm going to do that.
She knows I don't dab.
I'll be your stand.
But this is it, you see.
I'll be your
Poor
stand.
Neil.
Yeah.
Poor Neil, he can't take a big dab. He's got to find somebody else to pinch dab for him. See? It's all about me. I know what's going on here. I know what's going on.
And then we got Sterling.
And then a pillow fight.
Yeah, a pillow fight.
And then a pillow fight. Yeah. This is not about Jeff and Karen.
Yeah.
It's not about Ryan and his rival. This is about Asia and me. And her wanting to hit me with a pillow. And she knows me well. She knows that I am not going to beat up some girl, even with a pillow. I was raised different than that. I'm going to get smoked.
I think you're going to have to.
I'm going to get smoked. Well, it's only a pillow. No, I'm a stoic human being. I'm going to stand there and I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it like a man. And I'm not going to give it back because she's not a man, even though she's going to try and fight me like one.
Take her out of the legs then. All right,
can't do it, man.
That way you're not hitting any face or body upper part.
Nope.
Take out the legs.
I can't win.
Man like tree.
There's
take
no
away limbs, they fall down.
Yeah, but you see, winning is not an option.
Oh.
If I win, I lose.
Oh.
It's a man beating up on a girl.
No, there's no beating up when you're using pillows.
If I take her legs out, I'm not. Come on.
No, come on, you're winning.
If I use my use my male superior strength against her, there'll be no forgiving that. If I use my enhanced compared male to female intelligence, in the art of war on her to defeat her. No. That's not fair.
Listen.
It's not. My mom and dad, they taught me different than that. You be nice to the girls because they're just made of sugar and spice and everything nice, except they didn't tell me that there was this other ingredient there that makes them not so nice sometimes too. But, you don't beat up the girls. You can't hit a girl. I will not take out her legs. I will not hit her with a pillow. I will not hit her with a feather. I might hit her with a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe I'll...
But that's all I got. That's all I got. You're going to watch me stand there humiliated, but willing to self-defecate on myself because that's funny for some people.
You have to please the crowd. And
that's what I'm saying.
The crowd will be very happy when an older gentleman wins over the younger person. You can stand up and go, yeah, because you are 65. You are of
I would wipe the floor with her in any category if that was the thing. No, they can cheer all day. I don't care if the whole world has transformed into a crazy world where it's okay for an old man to beat up a young girl
with a pillow.
I didn't come from that world.
You keep saying it will beat her up. The pillow is the main
no
thing.
form or fashion.
You're not beating her with your fists or slapping or kicking or
I'm not doing it.
All right.
I'm just not doing it.
All right.
If I'm forced to stand and take it, I'll stand and take it, but I'm not hitting back.
Well, maybe we need the host of the show, Sterling, to stand in for you.
Well, and that's the thing. I need Sterling to stand in for that. I need you or Ted. I mean, I told Ted he could sit in and do the dab for me.
Okay. Oh, you already told that.
I might have Bricks play a song because Bricks has been working all summer on a couple of really good songs. He's got one called The Free Pre-Roll. Yeah. It's great. Yeah. It's about the CSP. It's about coming to the window every day, getting your free pre-roll. We give out hundreds of free pre-rolls here.
There you go. So get him to do that, yeah.
But that's not me. That's him.
No, but you can get a copy.
And I tried, I've tried singing along to the song. Yeah. And absolutely it would require accompaniment for sure, which I could maybe arrange.
Yeah.
But Bricks works that day here.
Friday?
Friday, yeah.
No.
And I'm not... I'm not going to lay this on him either. I mean, because I'm sure that Age is going to have it going on. And, maybe Bricks can do it if he wants.
Yeah,
I'll ask him if he wants to do it.
Yeah.
But, I can't even really accompany him properly on it. I would need a little bit of time to work on that because these things are serious, when you're doing music and whatever. I'm sure, Age has been working on it morning, noon, and night. I'm sure she probably had her dabbing and her song down before she even announced the contest. I may have superior intelligence, and I only may have superior intelligence, because I'm being very facetious about these things. But she's sneaky, and women are devious, and so I get it. She hasn't really pulled a fast one on me because I got it early. Mm-hmm. This is not going to be good for me.
I think you should just. Get really stoned and do some edibles and have some fun.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about it.
You know me. I mean, my whole thing is have as much fun as you can. Yep. So I'm going to do that within the limitations that I have and within the boundaries that I've set.
We've got Edward Snackman coming from The Facts of Life also.
Right.
He's bringing an IG comedian, an Instagram, very famous Jared somebody, I think his name is. because Mike couldn't come.
Mike's not going to be here?
No, you know why? Because CBC offered him a gig in Winnipeg. And CBC pays a little bit more than Potluck does.
There's the government trying to undermine our events again.
Well, he's big time now. He said,
I know he's big time.
Yeah, he's getting these gigs and stuff. And his agent called him up and said he had a gig, and you can't turn down that kind of stuff, right?
Of course not.
Right. So
I was sure looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, I know. And I was posting pictures of his visit just 1 year ago today.
So I'm sorry for those who saw me on the Truth, Hope and Change show back a couple episodes ago where we were talking about Mike Rita coming. Looks like he's not coming.
No.
That's the truth of it. We can only hope that isn't too big of a change for you. But there's some truth, hope, and change. And, you can't always be right. Science and the pursuit of truth is an ongoing evolution.
Mm-hmm. So this is going to be fun. This will be fun.
It should be fun. I look forward to getting to know Jared, whoever he is. I'm sure he's funny as hell.
Yeah.
And he's probably got some lines provided by Asia to...
Did you ask you?
More.
All right, well, it's 5:30. I should...
Don't mess with the woman. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to.
No, it's not.
I wasn't trying to.
Argue.
But apparently... some things were done, some things were said, some backs were raised. Not mine necessarily, because I was okay with it all. But this appears to be the result. Entertainment for the masses. The masses can come and get entertained watching a young lady humiliate an older gentleman who meant no harm.
Every time I notice myself looking down, it looks like I have a bald spot on my head. It's a stupid life. Look.
Nope, you have a bald spot.
There's no bald spot. It's hair right there. No bald spot. It's all hair.
You have a bald spot.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You do? unless you just shaved that area of your head.
I can feel it. There's hair there.
You heard of placebos?
Yeah.
You heard of a phantom limb?
Oh, yeah, that's
just
phantom hair. Yeah, right. When in the morning when I dry it doesn't look like phantom hair.
You're not bending over.
That's
you got to get the right mirror.
It's a stupid light. That light.
So if not now, soon.
Yeah. I'm thinking we get bald?
Well, wouldn't you eventually?
No.
An older version of you wouldn't have slightly less hair?
An older version of you doesn't have a bald spot.
Want to make a bet?
Oh, do you? Oh, right there, eh?
Yeah. See that?
It's just thin?
Well, of course it's just thin.
Oh, yeah, there's hair there.
But that doesn't prevent it from actually looking like a bald spot.
You'd be looking like that.
There you go.
All right.
Although I don't know if we're the same. Who knows?
No, we never know.
I mean, I don't know where I got my bald spot from, but
I don't know.
My gray hair came from my kids. I don't know if you got yours from your kids.
You probably got 4 kids.
No.
I should be grayer.
It didn't take 4. It took 2. 3. Okay, 3. I disowned one. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, should have disowned them all.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Gotta love kids.
Sorry, Dan. Not Andy Barbie.
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
I haven't had to apologize to Andy Barbie once yet today.
No, holy shit. I'm sorry, Andy Barb. All right. See, that's a good way to end it. All that stuff, yeah.
I guess.
You get to go talk about the CSP a bit more.
Just a little bit.
We'll see you next week. We'll see you on Thursday, too.
Yeah.
And
Friday.
We got
I'm going to see you Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday.
Are you going on Monday to the barbecue?
Probably. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
All right.
Depends on the weather, too. Canada Match.
We
just updated the site. We also updated the Google Play Store app, so that was like $300.
Nice. So what does that do? Does that make it easier for people to use?
Well, what I'm finding out is that these big guys, Google and all that stuff, they update their things every year, and so that forces the companies that sell you the web pages that they have to have an update to compare to be compatible with their update. So they charge you on their end because they've updated their system. So now we have to change. Chameleon has to change certain codes and in the dating
Is
site.
there any advantage to the user?
No.
It's
just
a cost to you.
It's a money thing. Yeah.
But there's already a lot of advantages to the user.
They say that the updates are to prevent security hacks and stuff like that, but I bet you there's other reasons that they do it too.
Well, they're taking money. That's the big
it. It was $137 for each one.
And how many people are out there doing that?
Oh, lots.
That adds up pretty fast,
yeah,
eh?
Yeah.
You get $137 if
most of the stuff for Cannabis I put out myself. It hasn't made a lot of money.
So what if they paid a team of programmers to sit at a computer for a little while and just do all this stuff?
Or then they also have people that report that there's a problem with it, and then they can fix that problem or something. Yeah. Right.
But like I said, I don't know. I'm not in the industry. I'm very skeptical about all of these industries because it's hard to understand where the costs come from.
Yeah.
And so when they're dealing with millions of subscribers and there's a charge, well, just $1 is millions of dollars.
Yeah.
$137 is a lot of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so,
too.
I'm always very skeptical, and I just think to myself, well, what does it actually take on their end to do what it is that they did that they're charging you for? And you and the other millions of subscribers. And like I said, it's likely just a team of people. Might be one dude in the corner. But it's probably a team of people that worked for whatever length of time was necessary to change all the codes or do all the typing into a computer or whatever they do. Or how to,
somebody's hourly wage.
But it's a small group of people getting an hourly wage or a salary over a fairly short period of time that equals not even anywhere close to the millions and millions of dollars that would be derived from doing that. That's just my skepticism. I really don't understand it. Maybe I'm wrong. But you have to learn to be skeptical in this world.
Yeah.
That's that's just how it is. I mean, because that's just the way it is. Well, look at what they did with cannabis. I mean, no reason that there should be all these taxes taken up on the government end, all these fees imposed on the producers, all these markups from the different levels as it goes to bring you cannabis at $4,480 a pound based on $10 a gram. So, that's just my example, the one we keep coming back to. But it's so many of these things, what does it take to put it into the marketplace? And then what is the revenue that comes back?
Thousands of dollars to put it in the marketplace over the years. Probably about $3,000 to $5,000 I put out.
That you put out, that they take in.
I think
these are billion-dollar companies.
I brought in maybe about $500 to $800 over the 5 or 6 months, 7 years now. It'll be 7 years now, wow. So not too much. But if you want to support your 420 friendly dating site and meeting site, buy some credits to Cannabis, please. Yeah. You can buy them with PayPal. It's very easy.
So far, he's not making a fortune off of this at all, as you just heard.
No.
But down the road, I think that you should be properly remunerated.
It's not about making money. It's that the service is there in order to bring people together.
Well, and that's what I'm saying.
If it's going to cost me any money, yes, I would like to get something back.
This was an activist move with a potential payoff.
Yeah.
And if it pays off, it'll mean that it was successful in bringing the community together.
Yeah.
In getting a lot of people to meet each other. Well, it has brought some people
together. I've heard some good stories and stuff like that. So
For sure.
It does work. And like they say, as long as it helps one person, they've done a good thing.
And that could be you.
Yeah.
So if you haven't already, check out cannabis.ca. It's an amazing way to meet other like-minded people. It cuts through that whole uncomfortable and awkward process of dating somebody that you haven't met before online and, having to at some point answer the cannabis question. Do you or don't you? Does she or doesn't she? Does he or doesn't he? And so this cuts right out of the equation. And that makes it real simple.
You get to answer all those
because that's
questions.
A big one.
Yeah, because it asks you how you like to smoke. Do you like to dab? Do you like to just smoke joints? There's a whole bunch of lists, and you just put your check marks in the box.
Do you have to answer other questions about how often you smoke?
There are, I think there's a how often there. You have your recreational weekend smoker, if you're an everyday smoker, Well, it's a computer program, so it wants the most information that it can to make out the best picks for you, right?
For sure.
Right.
And then it picks, and then you go through the picks.
Well, yeah, it'll generate. It's an AI, I guess, and it generates. Say, well, this person has this.
So you've got a data bank of potentials.
Pretty much.
You put in what your specifics are. Yeah. It'll pull out the prioritize which of those potentials meet those specifics.
Yeah, we're very close too. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I've watched you with it over the years. I know that your heart is in the right place with it, and
like I said, if it doesn't make any money, at least it's there, to help people get together, right?
And it's already done that, and it'll do a lot more of that in the future. Cannabis.ca. If Mike had been here, I would have got him on the show and had to do another commercial for you.
I know.
Whether he knew it was coming or not. Him and me just talked a little bit about Cannabis.ca.
Oh, well, maybe we can fly him out here one time or something.
If you haven't caught his commercial, check that one out. That's pretty good.
It's on the Cannabis Facebook page. There you go. All right, we'll see
Thank
you
you
next
very
week.
much.
Yeah.
All right. So the other couple things that I was going to talk about were our upcoming court dates. So with the Cannabis Substitution Program, as I've talked about in the show, and every show that we've ever done since we started over 4 years ago, this is about getting the government to support the low barrier access to cannabis model of some sort that allows for low cost and no cost quality potent cannabis to be available to people that would like to use it. There is no justification or logical reason other than for financial profit that the government, well, and maybe to avoid blame for not allowing this like 100 years ago. But realistically, with the 100 years of prohibition and with where we are right now, there's absolutely no logical reason why there can't be low barrier access to cannabis. And so the Cannabis Substitution Program has been demonstrating that for over 6.5 years. Every 420 and Cannabis Day, Global Marijuana March, these are demonstrations. And what we do is we demonstrate during those events, what it is that we're asking for through civil and even criminal disobedience, but absolutely non-violent. And, you can only really call it criminal disobedience, where in Vancouver we started selling cannabis at 420 and Cannabis Day and other events as a form of protest and as a form of demonstration of what it was that we were demanding from our public servants. And by demonstrating successfully, time and time again, the safety of what it was we were demonstrating, in the case here with cannabis being available through an open marketplace, a farmer's marketplace, and and being consumed en masse in large quantities by large amounts of people, we were demonstrating that this is safe to do, that we're willing to break these laws, and the government should take notice of that and meet the needs of the people, seeing as how they're public servants, and we were ever increasing numbers of the public. It led us to legalization. Those large demonstrations that we put on led to legalization, but the legalization that we have been given to this point is not a model of what we were demonstrating, but just simply by name legalization, whereas in reality it's a new player in the game, a big cartel that has unlimited resources to run a protection racket and attempt a hostile takeover of the current marketplace from all of the other players involved. And the Trudeau cartel has been pretty much exactly that. And if you get to work within the cartel, then you're good and ready to go. Although there are certainly restrictions and fees and taxes that you're going to pay to Mr. Trudeau and his other levels of officers down the line. But if you're outside of the cartel, then they're coming after you with the full force of the criminal law, fines that are unbelievable. Just looking at Ted Smith and the Victoria Buyers Club's $6.5 million fine for providing medicine for people that need it. And so with the Cannabis Substitution Program, we've been providing this demonstration for all of this time. And it's not been without its pitfalls, as we're up against a corrupt government that's intent on maintaining this attempted takeover. So we were originally doing our program from VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users offices, just right up from Main and Hastings. And for 3.5 years, we demonstrated for the last 2.5 years, twice a week, that we could give out large amounts of cannabis, edibles, hundreds of milligrams to people, and never have a complaint or a problem, and in the end or in the middle, rescue hundreds of people from addiction and better their lives in innumerable ways. And that is what we did. Enough so that the city government passed a motion, for whatever it's worth, to support low barrier access in the form of a storefront, which we then obtained and started providing low-cost and no-cost cannabis from, only to find that the municipal government's hands were tied and the federal government had to give permission before that could happen. And so we were not allowed to continue in the storefront, and after 5.5 months we had to move out of that and move into an RV to continue the program. After all, there's hundreds of people that are now relying on us to get what they need. And so, and having also right away applied once necessary to the federal government with an application that should have been approved quickly, we've been operating from an RV waiting for that approval, and it's been well over 3 years now. Well, 3 years in the RV coming up in November, but 3 years on the block here, because the RV is just parked right outside where the storefront was, which is what this building is. In the meantime, not without its pitfalls. We were first raided after 2 weeks just by the anti-vending squad, because there we were in an RV and you could see cannabis and our signs about what we were doing, and they just came and stole our stuff. But we didn't stop, we just moved it down half a block, and we've been continuing there ever since. But then over a year ago in March, we were raided again by this time the VPD for Project Blaze, and several months of undercover taxpayer dollars spent on determining that we were providing low-cost cannabis to people and no-cost high-dose edibles to people, and so charged with selling without a license. And those charges have been flipped into a charter challenge that's coming up in early October. So October 2nd, we start the preliminary hearing to determine whether or not one side or the other has enough to continue on in the proceedings. However, even without that, we've been now denied our application by Health Canada. Ludicrous as that can be. I mean, it just makes absolutely no sense that they wouldn't even have proper discussions with us or figure out how we can protect all of these people that have come to rely on us and not just shut us down. But that will now be decided in courts, and that may precede the October 2nd date, but we still don't have a date for that judicial review of their denial now of our application. So we are before the courts coming up. There will be some interesting things to talk about besides that here we are still fighting the fight. We'll see how corrupt the courts are, how much money the government is willing to spend of our tax dollars to fight in court the access to this life-saving natural plant medicine that we've been demonstrating for all this time is very successful in getting people through withdrawal and rescuing them from addiction and possible death and overdose. So not necessarily in that order. But so that's really the story. The Cannabis Substitution Program, once moving into the storefront, also then began providing low-cost cannabis to cover the costs involved in having the storefront, and now having the costs involved in having the RV and the staff every day and all that we're doing there. The Cannabis Substitution Program itself is a program that involves 269 members that are able to receive a care pack or a free package of edibles that they choose from a bunch that we have, 420 milligrams every 4 days, and that's been going on for all this time. But we haven't exceeded that number of people for 3 years since we moved into the storefront and made that membership list due to limited resources, limited capacity, and we're just on hold waiting for the government to do the right thing and give us not just an exemption or a special license to continue, but ideally some sort of a government grant to provide the stuff that we're providing. We put out between the CSP and the other side, which we call the Healing Wave, tens of thousands of milligrams of edibles every day. The Healing Wave side of things is where we look after the people that can't be part of the program. So the 269 members, they get to choose what they get for free. But other people that come and are in similar situations and can't afford $1 for a joint or $1 for a gram, we have 5 grams for $5, 1 per person per day. That's very popular with people. But still, there are hundreds of people in the neighborhood that are down and out. They don't even have $1, and they're going to come and ask for their free pre-roll, and it's either that or a free edible. But we also give out a pre-roll or an edible to these people, and they can come every day for it. And we are giving out a couple hundred free pre-rolls every day, and over 100 edibles every day. That's all covered by the money that's taken in from the sale of cannabis. So that, in a nutshell, is what it's all about and what we've been doing. We will go out now and just spend a little bit of time with. As always, we're going to have the regular THC weather report from Vancouver, and it is quite the opposite of what it was last week.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. I turned the camera around. I was looking at me. Hi, everybody. All right.
They probably heard what I said. It's time
yeah, they heard you.
Weather
Yeah,
report.
they just didn't see you. That's all.
It is not a nice sunny day out here. It's been wet and rainy all day.
I've got the umbrella. Do we need the umbrella? Is it raining?
It's not raining too hard, no.
All right. Well, I do have the umbrella with us. There it is.
I think we're good.
We're good? All right.
Oh, it's a little bit.
It is a little
I'm
bit.
not afraid of it.
Well, no, I'm not
You're
afraid
worried
of
about the
it.
camera?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
These are good cameras.
It's not pouring, so it's good.
Oh, Mackenzie's in the lineup.
Oh my gosh.
We might get to talk to Mackenzie. So here's our little RV. Hi, Mackenzie. Hot TV.
Cool.
You want to talk for a minute about what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
See you guys.
Happy little boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mackenzie, used to help us here, and she was bringing food and feeding people once a week. When we were doing twice a week at Vandu, she would bring hot food. Her fiance was a chef, and that evolved into a real program. The Heart Eye Tattoo people, and they have fed an awful lot of people. They do it twice a week now as well, and they have huge lineups that form. They serve basically gourmet meals, really healthy, good food to hundreds of people that line up to get it. So a great job that she's done of helping out the neighborhood and the people that are here trying to survive in a tough situation. I need to wash the RV.
I think I see Vicky. There's Vicky. Yeah. Of course she does. Of course she does.
Oh,
yeah, of course.
I'm stuttering, for God's sake.
All right. We'll wait for the traffic to pass.
We'll show the signs.
Yeah.
Sign everywhere. Sign.
I love my
Rosie
signs,
says hi, Neil.
Because as part of this demonstration, people go slowly past here. It's human nature to read what's there. I'm sure that we have gotten the message to an awful lot of people over the almost 3 years that we've been parked in an RV here, 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're here with our signs out and letting people know that we're doing this. Even though the mainstream media continues to ignore us, even though it's obviously one of the bigger stories in our world right now with what's going on. But eventually maybe we'll get some of that kind of press, and if enough people see the sign, know what's going on, and understand that maybe their little nudge of media or nudge of a politician might make the difference in whether or not we do become successful in having this as an option for people where they really, really need it. Oh, it's dark in here.
So it
Do you
is.
have any lights?
I have a light on my camera. Don't worry. I have a light on my
Leave that one
camera.
there, George. Leave it right there. It's got to stay right there. I don't want to move.
I can do
It's
this.
all good. You've probably got a good camera. Sure. I don't know. Apparently the weather and the time is closing in on us, and it's going to be dark from now on, so we'll have to make a better job, or do a better job next week.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. We already did a better job this week.
See?
So now everything's lit up and works well. Well, I don't know.
Oh, Rosie says hi.
If seeing me any better is working well, then I guess that's what it's doing. Otherwise,
Working well.
you make up your own mind on that. Who's saying hi to me?
Rosie.
Oh, hi, Rosie. Look forward to seeing you coming up on Monday. Maybe we'll have another showdown with the Popo. We'll find out. But, more reason to protest. We talked about it on the show already. I don't know if you missed it or not. But, we talked about the email that was sent and, just how ridiculous this is, that they are going to flex their muscle and try to stop people from having access to other than what the government has for people. And until the government has what people need in the form of proper dose edibles, until the government has prices that meet the budget of the poorer people in our society, then we've got a lot to protest, because those people are really in need, they're hurting bad, and they need to stop being the scapegoat for an evil corporate, sponsored government that just wants to take advantage of people and maintain artificially high prices for a commodity that should be subsidized by government, not taxed and high prices maintained. So, thanks to everybody for helping out with all that's going on, for what Rosie is doing with her events and with the CSP out there in Surrey. Gary and Bridget also with the Newton CSP, with Chris Backer in the Halifax CSP. All of these people are doing amazing things, and there's so many other things going on as well. Like we mentioned, pot fights is coming up, and this is so important. This moment in time that we find ourselves in, where we're going to come to a crux now with a court case coming up about whether or not the government is able to do what it is that they think they want to do. And if they get away with restricting access to cannabis, proper dose edibles, but all of cannabis, maintaining artificial prices that keep most people out of that market, then we're in a lot of trouble coming up. And it'll be a point in our battle for freedom that they will have won, and it might be very difficult to go back on from there. So let's get together on this. Support your local activist. Promote low barrier access to cannabis and reasonable laws surrounding it. Take advantage of whatever opportunities there are to get involved. Force the issue if you can. Be a player, not a watcher. Do something. Nobody can do everything. You're not expected to do everything. It doesn't have to be a full-time job. It doesn't have to take...
They could even go and volunteer for the CSP that's in their neighborhood.
Exactly.
Like Melody and then Heisen Herbs does, and Michelle, they help out with some of the CSPs and stuff. Like, you can do something like that.
There's lots of things that people can do.
Yeah.
And that's why a suggestion is that, please do something. Take whatever time you have. Don't let it supersede the needs of your family and your personal life. But find a little bit of time to do something. Be part of this team, and maybe we can keep in check this ever-growing need that the corporate side has for controlling our lives and manipulating prices that make them rich and keep us poor. So thanks everybody for what you've been doing so far, what you're going to do in the future. I hope that as you go through your day, you're kind to everybody, you're kind to yourself, you appreciate the complexity, the history, the amazingness of this universe and this planet that we find ourselves alive on. And while you're here, you do the best that you can to make the world a better place. And in that pursuit, the most important thing always, have as much fun as you can. See you next week.